How you guys doing? This is the video about pain management. There's going to be maybe 2 or 3 of these, okay? In this video, or these series of videos, you're going to see tips for the tattoo artists themselves, plus the clients. In this particular video, we've got tips for both of you. First, we're going to address a few tips for the artists themselves, and secondly, we're going to talk about what you can do as a client to manage your pain a little bit better. Okay, so we'll get you guys caught up. Here we go. Okay, so pain reduction. First, for tattooists, apprentices, people who are learning. If you want more information, here it is. Right. I'm going to put anything that might be important in this kind of space somewhere with some, some really basic computer skills. But right now, we're going to talk about depth. Depth is probably the biggest issue where it comes to pain. So you guys should know it's industry standard. Anywhere between sort of 1.9 and 2.3 millimeters in the skin is your depth for your needles. That's a fairly standard thing. It's something that you'll find pretty much everywhere. You can find that anywhere online. It should be something that any one of you guys who are learning or is already qualified already knows. So cool, right? I mean, it's going to vary slightly depending on which machine that you have, because throw and pressure and all the rest of the crap. I don't need to get into it, but depth. Okay. Now, depth coupled with the speed, the rate at which your machine is moving, the revolutions, if you'd like, per second, something like that. If those two things are quite high, you're going to cause pain. You're going to cause, well, I'm not saying you're going to, but there's a higher risk that you could cause some real damage to the skin as well. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is tell you guys that the depth is something that needs to be reconciled with how fast you go. Now, some people run their machines with a really, really long depth, or the overhang of the needles from the end of the tube, which is fine. But those people are they're never placing the tube of the machine all the way up against the skin. Okay? Now, that takes a lot of practice. I've only really seen that from established artists and people like myself who have been in it for a while, who understand the back pressure on the skin. Now, if you're looking for some quick, just blanket applications for how to deal with that pain caused by depth, if you're placing the complete end, the edge of your tube as it hits the skin, if you're placing those two things together, that causes a lot of pain, right? So number one, depth. Allow enough needle depth to get the ink into the skin, but don't place the tube of the machine all the way up to the skin, okay? Those two things combined will cause quite a bit of pain. You might get some unnecessary bleeding, that kind of stuff, okay? But in a nutshell, that's the easiest way to get through that. Now, the speed of your machines. Each machine is going to be built slightly different. In a rotary machine, you'll have different motors, and they will have speeds and voltages at which they need to be operated. What I suggest to you guys, just to make your job a little bit easier, is to set your amperage at a set value, like maybe 1.8 amps or something around that point. And then only adjust your voltage, okay? Treat it like a rheostat. It should be a rheostat, depending on which machine that you have. I use the dial, so it will be a rheostat. But keep that between maybe sort of 4 and 9 volts. Some of the heavier rotary machines I have seen that run as high as sort of 12, and that's their actual running speed. These motors will be, rated for, say, 24 volts. But I mean, you try putting 24 volts into somebody's skin, you're going to cause a hell of a lot of pain, a hell of a lot of damage. Don't increase your voltage to try and get the ink into the skin. Take a look around, take a look at some of the other technical aspects. If you increase your voltage, you will cause a bit more pain. Okay, so for the clients, you are looking to get a tattoo done, maybe you got some questions about pain or how to reduce it. I'm guessing most of you have had tattoos already, but for those of you who haven't, this is also equally relevant. Now, pain is going to be different for every person, right? So, quick easy tips on how to manage your pain. Right, first things first, get a good night's sleep. You might be worried, but your artist should be able to sit here and talk you through some things, okay? Just to try and make you a little bit more at ease. You should have, I would recommend that you see your artist before you get work done, right? Not always the case if you go into a walk-in studio, so these are just things that you can do regardless. So sleep well, okay? That's number one. We'll put that up here if I haven't, right? Anyway, part two, food. Now, if you're sitting here and you're coming in and you've skipped breakfast because you're so nervous, it's really not helping you. When you start to crash, when you start to get a little bit hungry as the day goes on, you're going to find that you're going to focus on the pain a bit more. There might be some scientific reason for that. I mean, you might find that, if your sugar levels are dropping, that you just focus on other stuff. It's going to be worse for you either way. Some people are fine with it, but these are just things that I've found in general. Now, bring some food with you for the day. Okay, now, I mean, when I've been competing in sports or anything like that, quick sugary sweets throughout the day, right? I'm not necessarily saying chocolate. I mean, like gummy bear, I don't know, whatever, right? As long as you're not allergic to anything, don't hurt yourself. But just bring in some stuff that keeps you topped up throughout the day. It'll just make you a little bit more manageable. When you leave the tattoo studio, you've been subject to a lot of pain throughout the day. You need to make sure that you are eating as soon as you leave here. What I find is when people go straight out and they go straight into the open air, much like you would if you've been drinking alcohol and you go straight out into the open air, you start to crash a little bit. I do need to make sure that you are eating as soon as you can. Whatever it might be, whatever you fancy, just put it in, okay? Now you want to continue to eat throughout the rest of the day, right? I want you guys to, by the time you go to bed, have just filled yourself out. Because the next day, you're going to feel a bit lethargic if you haven't, and you can't possibly heal without the fuel in your system, right? So you do need to make sure you've got a little bit of food on hand, and that's basically it, okay? So don't worry about what other people say about pain. You're going to feel pain differently to your body, okay? Now, make sure you sleep well the night before. Eat, and eat, okay? Eat before you get here, eat while you're here, eat after you leave. Just continue to eat, okay? It's the best way to deal with it, right? Hopefully this helps. It's a couple quick tips. We'll catch you guys when I see you next, I guess. If you have questions, please let us know. If you want to see certain content on certain things, please let me know. I'd love to answer your questions. When I'm finished with this pain series, I'm actually going to add it into our course. So for those of you who are purchasing the Apprentice Level 1 course through AKJ, you will find this as a little added extra eventually. For now, you'll find it on our Facebook pages. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Hopefully it's been informative, more importantly. But please ask questions if you have any. Take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Bye.